Well, I thought about starting this recording while Mercury is stationing retrograde. It happened here at 11:01 a.m. That's what's happening here while I make this video. Might as well do it here. Mercury in Sagittarius, 6 degrees, is going to go retrograde here for about 3 weeks. When we get to the end of November, Mercury's going to station forward because it's going to go all the way back to 20 degrees Scorpio. It isn't until mid-November that we'll hit the 6-degree Mercury in Sag place again. Listen, a lot has been said in the last several weeks, especially since Mercury went into Sagittarius. There's so much thinking, pontification, exploration that goes on with Mercury in Sagittarius. Mars is there with Mercury right now too. So what I mean by there's a lot that's been said, not just by me, but by anything, anybody, any social media feed, any subject matter you can pick. There is exploration going on and the seeking of knowledge. Now, sometimes along the way when this stuff kind of happens is we push the boundaries of those things, and we maybe have a tendency in certain situations to fabricate or to expand upon verbally and add a bunch of adverbs and adjectives to compensate or overcompensate. And so while Mercury is going retrograde here today and for the week, it's a big part of this week, listen to what people are saying and the information that you're absorbing. We will be reviewing all of this here in the next several weeks, especially when Mercury goes back into Scorpio and the tone will change. So officially Mercury stationed to go backwards retrograde 11:01 a.m. Pacific at November 9th, where I am Pacific time. When we get to the moon in Leo on Monday the 10th, and then we move to the 11th, we have another station planet that's going retrograde, and it is Jupiter at 25 degrees Cancer. It's going to do this for months. So now we have Saturn's retrograde. Jupiter is going to be retrograde. Neptune is. Uranus is retrograde, just went back into Taurus. Ton of planets that are slowed down or moving backwards. So if you can get the tone here for the next several weeks, especially before Saturn's going to move forward, we are fully in review mode of the past and having to review and revamp and eventually revise things, whether it's in the Scorpio part of your chart, the Sagittarius part of your chart, the Pisces part of your chart, definitely, the Taurus part of your chart. Everything is in review mode. We have kind of did this whole year to lead up to this moment here in these weeks. And I think it is driven by all the planets and water. The reason is because Jupiter stationing retrograde here, 8:41 a.m. on November 11th Pacific time, is Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. So if Saturn and Pisces and Neptune and Pisces are retrograde and Mercury and Mars are currently in Sagittarius, Jupiter rules all of it. So it's a very Jupiterian situation that's slowing down and not expanding out. I think the boundaries have been pushed and will go over the line here this week, next several weeks. Some people have already caught this. They've already kind of slowed down. They're already doing the review process. Some people don't know how to do this until they go over the boundary and go too far. So that's the place that we're in if you want to gauge the temperature of things with people, with politics in the world. Let's bring up some politics. Government shutdown still going on in the United States. Now, what's sensitive on the table is them supposedly today are coming to terms with an agreement. I think a big part of this has to do with actually movement and transportation, which is the airline industry. So we know that the airport workers and the air traffic controllers haven't been getting paid. Some of them are walking off the job. Last Friday, the government says we have to eliminate 10% of flights on the calendar. Things that deal with moving, going from here to there. Mercury, Sagittarius, going to places. Here we are in a Mercury retrograde station day and week, and we will see what is going to happen. And I think here, especially something as we lead up to November 12th, when Mars and Mercury are together in Sagittarius, but this time Mercury's retrograde, this is where I feel like things show up and inflame and falter or get miscalculated. I had a situation last night. I needed to do a PowerPoint thing, and I needed to use the PowerPoint file. I had to update my whole operating system during a Mercury retrograde station weekend. Everything went fine so far, right? But things like this happen. So one has to stop and review or backtrack. Now, when we think on bigger political scales, what has been said and what has been promised during elections from politicians or from all sides of government, and then people are trying to negotiate. What type of pontification and exaggeration goes on? What Mercury and Sagittarius uplifting, it seems hopeful, optimistic ways of being and what is promised, does it really come to fruition? Is it really achievable? So these types of things I think we see this week and the next several weeks. And when we come out of November and December, we will see this play out. I think the sweet time is to catch when Mercury goes back into Scorpio during all this. And that will happen on November 18th at 29 degrees Scorpio. From pretty much now into the 18th, we're like, what's real, what's not? Do I back up the hard drive? Do I sign the contract? All that. Now, I'm not going to scare some of you like, don't do this during Mercury retrograde or whatever. There are certain things we have to be aware of or not supposedly do, but most of the time we have to make decisions and we have to move forward, it seems. Just know that you'll have to review it or get back to it. You're going to have to tweak it. Your emotional content and where you stand on this is very important besides the cerebral part. And this is where the grand water trines of November come into play. Because for me, when we're dealing with emotional content, and in this case, the free-flowing connection between Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces with planets there, whenever the moon, currently as I make this video, the moon's in Cancer, right? When Mercury goes back into Scorpio, it's going to trigger it. Anytime all three signs in water are triggered, they're all going to affect each other. And here we're dealing with the past, with memory and emotions and how we stand. And I think a lot of times we have to know what we're feeling and sometimes name, not just feel it, but then name what we're feeling. And when we get to the 18th, of November, when Mercury goes back into Scorpio, we're really going to get precise about this. We're really going to know where we stand emotionally on many different levels or in many different facets of our life. So here we are, we're having to manage a Mercury retrograde, a Jupiter retrograde, and all the rest of the retrograde planets, and it's more of a standstill. And that's the approach I suggest and take if you can do it. In other situations in your life, you have to make decisions. Just know and pay attention to possible leakages and places where you'll have to reconsider and redo. Sometimes we get caught up in situations and we're like, oh, what's going on? It's Mercury retrograde. It goes, yeah, but we're talking about it right now. You know what's happening. So sometimes we forget and we get caught up. But if we can stop and slow down and acknowledge like, oh, I know what's going on. We talked about this in the forecast. Certain things aren't moving the way they should or as fast as I like, and my aspirations and the way I saw things from a Mercury and Sagittarius way aren't necessarily happening, and it could be frustrating because people want to push forward. But we know that Saturn and Neptune are involved in Jupiter, and they're all going backwards. So can we step back? See? That's what we try to tell ourselves. I just gave an example of this. I'll do it this week when something comes up. I'll get all riled up, and I'll be like, wait a second, I know what's going on astrologically. Right? So another little side tidbit as I go into the rest of the quick forecast for this week is anything in Sagittarius. Right now it'll be Mercury, and it'll be Mercury down the line in December when the Sag birthdays start, or when Mars is there right now and Venus will be there eventually. You have to remember in the back of your head that it is part of the eclipse story that's happening with the North Node in Sag and the South Node in Virgo immutable. Here's the two, and on the side is all the Sagittarius stuff squaring it. So if you're an eclipse affected person this year, know that anything in Sagittarius is going to push the story, the eclipse story along. That is my little bonus something, and we will remind ourselves. The Mercury-Mars conjunction in Sagittarius happens at 3:15 p.m. on November 12th of this week. Oh, this is hot-headed stuff. This is fire, and this is Mars is propelling it, and it's propelling a wild Mercury that has no boundaries and no constraints on it. It doesn't want to go retrograde in a sense, so it's going to throw its wild messages out there. Okay, so I'm reiterating this to you this week. Okay, it's a lot of people thought last week when we had, Mercury, Mars, Uranus opposition, blah, blah, blah. I think that's legit, but I think it gets set off with a situation like this week. I said here on the 12th, multiple thinking lanes also can be thwarted, soon to be reviewed. There's no boundaries, no filters, and things are brash and preachy this week. I will move past the 13th and 14th as the moon in Virgo will do its thing, and a square Mercury on the 13th. So you can see what I'm talking about here, mutable squares with the moon. We go all the way to Saturday. Before that on the 14th, moon will be opposite Saturn in Virgo, that kind of thing for those affected by the eclipse story. 15th moon goes into Libra for, I think, some actually good relief, mercurial relief. So we do a Mercury retrograde this week and the moon goes in the Virgo and it has to deal with the South Node. So you could see how uncontrollable this is and how we need to take note of that. Once we get to the 16th on the Sunday, the sun will try and recently station Jupiter in Cancer to give it some illumination here. Now, Jupiter in Cancer will be going backwards all the way to 15 degrees here in Cancer here when we get to the beginning of the year. This is the time and the place now to review the Cancer part of your chart. Jupiter has been steaming forward here since June, since it left Gemini, left the cerebralness and the multiplicity of things, and the enhancement of it, and now it's been the enhancement of lunar activities by being in Cancer. So at this point in time, I love situations like this because, especially with lunar ways of being, we're having to deal again with feelings and emotions. And a lot in this day and age, and I can admit have a hard time with this, being a very mental air person at times, that we are disconnected from our emotional bodies and somatically and all these types of things. I am suggesting here with Jupiter and Cancer is not only do you go through emotional realms, but you're also in touch with your body, your mouth, your throat, your stomach, what you're putting into your body. Is it time for a bath or a massage? Is some oils you can put on yourself? The types of things we do to our body to bring us back in so we connect head and body, and then we could start to gauge where we stand emotionally. But sometimes we have to put ourselves in that place, especially in a technological driven era and society, in our disconnection from body and emotions. And it's easy to swipe and play and do all these things to disassociate from ourselves, to all the crazy ways of doing this that the world offers is so-called help, or to numb ourselves. And I'm just feeling the thing of with a month like this with grand water trines, we don't want to numb ourselves, but it's hard because we kind of know lurking in the background, if I do unnumb myself with whatever vessel I'm using to do that, that means I'm going to go into this certain narrative in place, and I'm going to have to feel those things and uncover something. And once I open that up, then there's more feelings, and I'm dealing with the past and where we learned to nurture ourselves, or did we learn? Did they teach us? Did our families or culture and society or nation, how do they deal with emotional places? Is there some sort of structure and vessels and healthy ways to support that, to move through emotionally and not get stuck? But more often than not, we're stuck in certain places emotionally and in narratives and in our bodies because we don't have reinforced healthy places to do this. The Democrats right now are withholding going back to bring back government with the Republicans because they're trying to save some semblance of health care. And if they don't do this, the premiums triple and quadruple. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about how we take care of ourselves. And the system is already toxic. And so it's already unaffordable. It's already waiting in lines. It's already hoops that you have to jump through with capitalistic pharmaceutical companies that will nickel and dime you and deny you your services because they decided to use an AI. Do you see what I'm saying here? There's all this stuff, and it inherently goes back into our well-being. and where we feel safety. And if we don't have safety, we don't have comfort. And how can we make informed decisions about our lives every day or in the future for ourselves, for our friends, the people that we love, for our families? So everything is intrinsically connected, even if we don't pay attention to politics. Even outside of the United States, where people are, nations are debating over identity of a nation or past identity, and all those things come with rules and old stories and traditions that we carry. Everything that I'm saying has to do with the sign of Cancer here. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because of how we have to gauge, I feel, where we stand in our own lives with this, of what gives us safety and comfort, right? And then what we do from there. And from those places, if it is something of worth, we can then have the healthy vessels to process emotionally. And that is my little thought pattern I've been thinking about the last couple of days. I've talked about this earlier this year when I was on Australia. I made this Jupiter and Cancer video. You could find it. You don't see my face on the screen. It's like a beach. I was killed over there in Melbourne when I made that. I was thinking about, I was inspired by those who don't seem to speak the same language, but somehow find a way to connect. And usually they do it through song and, most importantly, food, right? The belly, what gives us comfort. What we say to each other at a dinner table or amongst food, what we do to cultivate it, how we cultivate things within our communities, how that is hopefully shared with each other. I think this is the thing here to be looked at, and will be during the Jupiter and Cancer's retrograde. And when it moves forward next year and starts to finish the 2026 and we get into June, I think it becomes very prominent. And I think at that point in the Cancer part of your chart, that you will know where you stand and that you have been moved through emotional places that have been stuck, and you have said goodbye to certain places in the Pisces part of your chart and the Cancer part of your chart. And you decide what to keep with you, to take forward in your lineage in the future for yourself, the loved ones, family, community, nation, right? So all this stuff is under review right now, and keep that in mind, but keep it simple. Again, start with the body. Can you get into the body and go from there? And then maybe you could start to name, oh, this is what I'm feeling in this situation with my family, or when it comes to my career, or in my relationships, or what are the things that I need so I feel nourished and fulfilled. A little bit of thoughts on this as Jupiter and Cancer stations retrograde this week. That is my quick forecast of the week. I'm here chilling right now. I'm in between certain situations. For any of those who follow my channel, another video is going to get published to the members this week. I think it's Wednesday it's going to happen. A little interview that I did. And there's a couple of things coming down the way. If you made it this far and you're new here, my name is Nicholas, or Nicolas Polymenakos. I'm an astrologer. First and foremost, though, I'm a regular human being dealing with regular human stuff, and I'm hungry after talking about food. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, all right? On that note, be good to yourselves this week. Remember, slow down the mind. People are going to say things or want to do things. It has to be proven. First, before we prove and follow through on things, we will review things. Gauge where you stand emotionally, and find something that feels good to eat, to nourish yourselves this week while all Mercury retrograde technological mishaps are happening. Make sure you're drinking the water and you're nourishing yourself. All right, I'll see you